What's up, everybody? Man, happy February. Can you believe that? Like, time is flying. Like, we're really on some February stuff. Like, for those that care, it'll be Valentine's Day. Each is own, right? Whatever makes you happy. You know, do what you got to do. Whatever. I can't tell everybody not how to make their home happy. So please make your home happy and do what you got to do. Um, This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster. This is Real Talk with Assemblyman Al Taylor, who is running for city council. We'll find out more about that and we'll talk some stuff. We really will, man. Let me get the sponsors out the way. It's sponsored by Daily Arts of Survival magazine, number one martial arts magazine on Amazon and in the country right now. Ingram Taxes. It's tax season. You already know what you got to do. Don't act like you don't want to do your taxes. Do your taxes, everybody. Stop playing. You don't want the IRS. Them the last cats you really want to mess with you. You know what I'm saying? The IRS. You don't want them boys. They bring the smoke. Soft Illusions Art Gallery. Malika and I, we was just doing something. She had to do a showing on Friday. Nice place downtown. Philly is a beautiful place. If you've never been to Philly, please check it out. It is just phenomenal. Like the structures and the old buildings and stuff like that. Reggie Wells Quality Speakers. That's another one. He's a sponsor. Let's see who else. Melba Wilson and Leon Ellis, Chocolat, and Harlem Underground. And saying all that, get that all out the way. I am Bill Forster and Assemblyman Al Taylor will be coming along, but we have his. Wendy, you're gonna have to help me with that. With your title now, Chief of Staff or
Yes,
what?
sir. Chief of Staff.
Okay, because I don't want to mess it up. I don't need that smoke.
Yes,
um,
sir. Thank you. Thank you.
yeah. How are you doing? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy Valentine's Day. Happy
Ah.
Easter. I mean, like all of these things come up so quickly, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, we were
Um,
just talking about what was going on in the summer. Like now we're talking about
exactly.
Happy New Year and Happy Valentine's Day and things of that magnitude. Isn't that something?
Absolutely. We're getting events coming in, and okay, don't forget our event is June 29th. Register now. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah, yeah.
But things
Real
move
talk.
that fast.
Wendy, we got so much going on in the world. We can talk about the migrants. We can talk about um we will talk about the migrants.
Yes.
Um we can talk about Santos.
Oh,
We can talk
Lord.
about DeSantis. I think he's supposed to be running the VP, right? Isn't that's his is that who Trump is having as his like vice president when he runs? Like,
I don't know if he's running against him or as his vice president. I'm not even sure if Trump can run again
yeah, well, we'll see.
after all is said and done.
Yeah, we got so much going on with this dude. But since we've last spoken, um, Tyrese Nichols was killed, and they fired the other individual, the white officer. I think he was fired eventually. Hey Vera, what's up, loving God? How are you?
The
Uh,
EMT was fired also. He
yeah,
waited almost
the
20
three of
minutes
them,
before taking
the three of
action.
them. Yeah, absolutely. The three of them were fired. So let me ask you a question, Wendy. When because you're a mother of two sons, right?
Right.
What did you feel when you saw that?
I did not.
Oh,
So,
mhm.
I I don't need to see that. Um, I did hear literally 10 seconds of it and my soul broke. Um, because immediately I picture our sons, all of our sons. Um, it's it's I don't want to say inhumane because it's such a cliche, this word lately. We use it so often to describe so many things. This was just beyond what anyone should ever have to experience. There's no excuse, there's no reasoning, there's no pack mentality that you want to bring me. No. Um, I could not watch it. I didn't need to watch it to know. I just couldn't, Bill. I couldn't watch it.
Got you. Got you. I had to watch it from a journalistic standpoint. I had to watch it from a former law enforcement standpoint.
Yes.
I had to watch it from a black man standpoint, being sick and tired of being sick and tired. And then I watched it from let me figure this out, you know. And I was truly disgusted all the way around. I'm disgusted that the fact that they were officers. I'm disgusted that they were black men. I don't know what you want to. I can say I'm disgusted more that they were black men and they did that to another black man because of being an officer. However you want to put. It's a race. It's a terrible race, and they lost both. You know what I mean? They to the messed up finish line. There was rumors about them being out there, him having a relationship with one of the officers, but supposedly that got squashed. It was alleged rumors, and that got squashed. So that even makes it worse. That means they abused their privileges and their power to be vigilantes. I think it's terrible that you take an oath, and it seems like this oath has become a joke to some, and people don't understand what it is to really take that oath. They take it as being sworn in, but you know, and you get elected to this, or you get appointed to these units, and I'll say necessary evil units, because you can't be a watchdog and be a chihuahua. You know what I'm saying? You got to be a bull.
Right.
You got to be a bull, but be a bull when it's time to be a bull. Don't be a bull just picking on anybody and everybody. You know what I'm saying? The days of Tom and Jerry chasing the cat is over. Like chase another dog. You know what I'm saying? Stop it. Stop it. But when you abuse your powers, and you abuse and you take away the rights and the privileges of a law-abiding citizen, because there isn't anything anybody can say about this situation. This man was a law-abiding citizen. He was going home. He was minding his business. There hasn't been anything that has substantiated their reason for the stop. And I've been on a number of shows speaking, and in other cities and calls, and it's just disgusting on all accounts. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. That's Wendy, and we are waiting for Al. He is doing his thing, but he's doing business. And if you're watching Real Talk Chronicles, please subscribe to it. Also, too, don't forget, I got a brunch party. Wendy was supposed to be there one third Saturday of the month. Maybe she'll
Let me
eventually.
tell you,
Uh
the
huh.
reason I was off camera when we first started is because I know I must look as tired as I feel. And so, Assembly Member Al Taylor works a lot. He never stops moving. So that's why I was not at your brunch. I was working.
Well, I listen. I know
Yes.
Al.
I'd
Al.
rather
Al.
be at brunch
Well, no, I
sometimes.
know Al. Will definitely keep you on the move. I know he loves the move. You know what I'm saying? Shout out to my man. So, um, I know you can't speak for him, but because you're chief of staff, what's going on with? Well, you might as well stay here looking tired or not. You might as well just let us see your face.
I'm
um,
gonna say, I'm literally, there's so much going on right now that I never ever, this never stops. And
okay, so
so
what's
as
going
I'm
on
doing
with
this,
what's going on? Yeah, there you go. Stay right there. What's going on with the race for city council? Can you bring us up a little speed to that?
It is interesting. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Mhm.
Um, I'm a little hesitant as to speak without the member here, but I will tell you this. Um, this is going to be a hard fight, but a good one.
Mm.
We have other candidates on the field who feel the same way about their own race, right? But I
Hmm.
can tell you this: um, my member is passionate, dedicated, hardworking, and he's running to bring resources to fight for housing, fair housing for all of us.
Hmm.
Um, and this is, the people who work for him are his constituents, so he knows exactly what it is that we're all experiencing.
Hmm.
He speaks for us, he stands up for us. And like I said before, this man does not get tired. And this is a district that, has lacked representation to a certain extent. And it's time that unity and collaboration was brought to Harlem, to that district, to Central and East Harlem.
Hmm.
And anyone who would like to help us in that quest to get there, reach out to me and I'll share, Bill, you're welcome to share my information with everyone
Absolutely.
to help us on, our journey there. So primaries will be on the 27th of June of this year. So if you're not registered to vote as a Democrat, please do so you can vote in the primaries. Otherwise, you cannot. Um, What other questions do you have? It's easier for me to answer a question than, very general, because I can tell you why he's running and I can tell you um how hard we're going to be working to get there.
Well, tell us why you're running.
He's running again to bring resources
Is
to
that
the
a
district.
dog?
I do. This is Lola. Lola
Where'd you go? Oh, there you
So
go.
whenever my texts go off or my phone rings, it's going to
Okay,
blink a little
there you
bit.
go.
Um So the members running again to bring resources. We have a lot of different housing opportunities that can be created in this district. Affordable housing is a huge issue in our communities.
Hmm.
Safety is another issue that we must deal with differently. And we also have to protect our communities. We continue to get and Al doesn't curse. I'll curse for him, the shit end of the stick when it comes to a lot of things. And we're tired of that. And this is, we collaborate a lot with other leaders in Harlem, and it's about working together. It's about unity. It's about bringing resources and money, finances, proper transportation, getting our streets cleaned. All of those things matter to us. Um, I don't know if you knew this, but one of the hottest areas in the city is in East Harlem. And it's literally only like, no matter what the weather is, it's always going to be 10 degrees hotter there.
Hmm.
And this is because we don't have any trees there. So something as minuscule as that, or, may seem unimportant, can make a huge difference to someone who can't leave their apartments, who doesn't have enough money to have an AC. And little things like that that keep us moving every day. But with that comes a different kind of change. And it is when you see a community working together to make sure that we all move forward.
Right. You know, it's so funny. Let me just say this, and I would say this to Al. Trees and stuff are good. I think people would want to know what is it. Am I echoing?
No,
Okay. What people would want to know more about crime. I get the trees, and that's a good thing. And understand. How about this? Maybe tell people what is the functions of a city councilman.
city council member will represent. So, for example, the ninth councilmanic district, it is a city seat. So, in that position, we would work mostly with city agencies as opposed to his position at this point, which we work mostly with state agencies. This has a lot to do with rezoning everything that happens in the city. And one of the biggest issues we have is rezoning. A lot of our areas, empty lots are, being rezoned for things that are not convenient to our community. Um, Everything from DOT, MTA, Department of Health. These are all city agencies that we would be collaborating and working with. Um, Different types of funding also comes from city council as opposed to the state assembly. City council has discretionary funds, which the state assembly does not. Um, so there are, those are the differences. The funding is different. The agencies are funded different because they're city agencies. It's a lot more work. You would think the other way around. The state is bigger than the city, but no. It's the city is nonstop, ongoing issues and work and items that have to be taken care of. And in order to do those things, we have to work together. And that's one of our biggest drawbacks is that we have not done that very well. I think that we're doing better as a community at working together. But I love to see the collaboration between the leaders when it's happening, and it's a beautiful thing, and you see things begin to change.
Absolutely. You know, so funny. I have a question for you. Uh, Loving God said, "Are you aware of any baseball programs for poor or at-risk youth?"
You said baseball programs?
Yes.
There are a lot of little leagues. I'm not familiar with all of them. There's the Harlem Little League and the Inwood Little League that I know right off the bat. But I can definitely connect you with Keith Howard he's the commissioner of DYCD, because we are trying to bring different types of initiatives for the youth, including, I think baseball is one of them, definitely soccer, boxing.
Yeah, good. And I
Yes.
was, listen, I was a coach at Harlem Little League some years back. Woo, them little boys were bad. At least I'm not. It was good. The girls were good. It was good, the other girls. But that is one of the few things that are still out there. It would Al be able to do something in regards to bringing back the PALs and stuff like that? Would he do something to try to implement something like that again?
With the boxing program, you mean?
Yes.
So interestingly, that is a conversation that we did have with the commissioner. There's a Cops and Kids, and I think we've spoken about that before. It's Pat Russo out in Brooklyn. And so we did start that conversation up. I do believe that the issue comes in with insurance. And so we are looking at that right now. That is definitely one of our topic items of discussion with the commissioner.
And also, Loving God asked, uh, are you aware of any stipend tutoring programs for at-risk youth? Good questions, Loving God.
Tutoring programs for at risk youth, I don't know right off the top of my mind. However, if you email me olivow@nyassembly.gov, I will gladly look that up for you and share that information.
Loving God, did you get that? Say it again.
It's OLIVOW at nyassembly.gov. And that's my email address. You're welcome to reach out to me there and I'll find information for you.
You know, let me ask you. I'm gonna ask you. I'm gonna try to ask you some questions, and I think it's kind of hard to get the Wendy and not the chief of staff. Because we never want anything to come back to Al. But he said, "Can you type it in, Wendy, when you get a chance?" It's in the YouTube chat, so I don't.
So I can't get in there, but if it's okay with you, Bill, I'm gonna put it in our chat and then you
Yes,
can. Okay.
right. Okay. Yes, absolutely. So I wanted to ask you your personal feelings on, like I said, it might be kind of hard for you, the migrants. You know, some people, I've spoken to some people that are having a little issues with the migrants, feeling like they're asking for a little bit too much. Like, listen, you hear you you were lucky to get into a hotel, so you got the accommodation that somebody. I'm going to say like some people would have told me, like some tax-paying people would have received. Then they moved you to the cots, and all of a sudden you were like, whoa, whoa, this is not my living conditions. Like, wait a minute now, you you're from Mexico, and what were your living conditions over there? Now you coming over here, you got a little cable TV, you get to watch MSG, watch the Knicks and everything, and you get a little carried away. If you can answer it in the best of your ability without getting in trouble, like I said, I want to know what Wendy's thoughts are since you're here with me, because I'll tell people my thoughts. Where'd you go, Wendy? Yoo-hoo. Wendy, um, I guess Wendy had stepped away from the screen. So I'm going to tell you my thoughts, everybody. I'm all for trying to do the right thing and help other people, but let's not ask for too much and you won't get too little. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what the stipulations are for them to be in that shelter or that place where the mayor has them. It's obviously he stayed there to show that it wasn't of poor condition, and for the things that they complained about, it seemed it didn't happen. Now, listen, I pray to God that I never have been in situations like that, of course, and I pray that for those that are listening. But somebody's putting a battery in their back to tell them what they should accept and not accept, because you're coming from Mexico, borders and things of that magnitude. How are you here talking about now? You don't want to live in that shelter, and I'm calling it a shelter. I don't know the proper terminology for the location that they're staying at, but maybe maybe you're asking a little bit too much until you get citizenship or settled in. I don't know if you can answer that or talk about that, Wendy, on your personal feelings or things of that nature.
Um, well, I'll speak on my personal feelings because I don't want to. I'm not sure what the assembly member would say. He's got two hats on that may approach that from different perspectives. What I can tell you is it's such a hard situation because it's not. It's not just like coming over from Mexico. A lot of these people have like jumped through jungles through various countries to get to Mexico. And then they were shipped here. And so, as a tax-paying citizen, I'm also thinking, well, shit, I need to pay my rent. I need to do these things. I can't apply for any of these things. I have a job, but I still, it's not sufficient. What do I do? Um, but the other part of me, the part that serves the community, the part that works, serving people, understands a different perspective of the land of opportunity. Um, this is this is. I, I think it's a little bit difficult for people from the United States to understand when you hear United States, what that means to other people who are living in horrible situations outside of the United States, right? I wasn't born here, but whenever anybody would mention the United States to me, I thought this was heaven in the sky, the land of opportunity. One of the things that I did hear from one of the migrants was that they were put in a certain place, right? And I think it was a hotel, and at that point started to become a little more stable, applying for work permits, applying for um, all of the licenses that they need in order to be able to function as residents of the city. Once you move them, they lose their jobs, they lose, everything that they had, in order to be able to continue to become stable and have to start all over again. Um, so it is, I have an understanding of both perspectives, and I play devil's advocate with myself because, what we do every day when we work with the residents of this community is help people who don't have anything, who don't have the resources necessary to move forward, and we fight for them. And I've had constituents who have said to me, "Well, I went to, I'm in a shelter, and in order for me to secure my things, I needed to get on this line, but the line was a whole block long because of these migrants." And I said, "Well, sir, are you able to stand online?" He's like, "Yeah, but why should I? Why can't they just move and let me go ahead? Because I was born here." You know? Um,
Yeah, it's a little slippery slope when you feel you see people coming over here, and I've had the conversation with people telling me, and I'm talking about people of color. Listen, I'm a
oh
taxpayer,
yes, oh yes,
and I can't believe this. And I was like, oh, I said, I mean, I can't sit here, and it's almost like you take the approach like, well, you're being a little ballsy. Excuse my terminology, but you're being a little ballsy, and you're asking for so much. And I get it. This is the land of opportunity, but wait for the opportunity. You just sitting here now. You talk about taking it. You're like, yo, I'm not supposed to sleep here. Where were you sleeping? A lot of these people came from third world countries, and I'm not trying to say take anything. By no means am I trying to say that. But what I'm trying to say is just like you said, when you got Jamie and John Q. Public here already, and they're trying to get help for certain things, food or living conditions, and get out of shelters. And now you said they're waiting on the line. Like, wait a minute, I'm equal to this person that a migrant now. Like that might be a little unfair.
yeah.
Like,
I mean, one of the things that definitely would help us if the federal government would send us some money, right?
right,
And
right,
the problem is that none of us were expecting them to be here. They were not expecting to be here. And so now I think it's 800, almost 1,000. I may have the number wrong, but it is an incredible number of people out of nowhere without it's here you go, New York City, and without funding to properly
right,
be able
right.
to assist people. It is an unfortunate, like, we're going to hear complaints, and people will complain no matter what. That's what I have learned. And we
Well,
just have to keep doing the
no,
work.
you're not going to make everybody happy.
No,
This
no.
this is the world.
Yeah. So we just have to keep doing the work, at least from my perspective, right? I don't have the ability to write legislation and change laws.
Right, right.
Um, However, there is that opportunity to be able to do things correctly. There is an opportunity to not grandstand and drive the truck the way that we're supposed to. Um, I think that we have failed our city before the migrants got here.
Well,
So, my dad used to tell me, I used to ask him, "Can I go to my best friend's house?" And he would say, "Well, did she clean your room?" I'm like, "No, I'm gonna, I'll clean that later." But she
right,
asked me if I could help her, and he's like, "No, you clean your house first."
yeah, exactly. Everybody,
Yeah.
this is Real Talk Chronicles. Wendy Alivio,
Olivo. It's
Alivo,
like olive
Wendy
with an O at the end. Yes.
Alivo, Wendy Alivo, Chief of Staff for Assemblyman Al Taylor, and we're having Real Talk. So if you're watching Real Talk, please subscribe to it. That way you'll always get the notifications. Let me read this statement and let me know what your thoughts on this. I think you kind of touched on it, but let me just, and then I'm going to go to another topic. Loving God said, He's the force of showing love to the immigrants is good to the soul in contrast to dividing and conquering.
Wait, say that again?
He says, showing love, he mentions my name first, though. He says, force of showing love to the immigrants is good to the soul, in contrast to dividing and conquering. Then he goes to state, we are swindled into looking down on the have-nots, that's not a win for the everyday citizens. I mean, that's a great point, but
Yes.
the
You
world is
know,
have and have-nots. It's always been that way. It'll never be haves and have. It will never be that.
it takes all of us. And we may not be happy about the situation, but we continue to help regardless. I know this spectacular advocate by the name of Ba. Amada Ba, her name is. And she is out there every single day. She is a Black Muslim sister. And let me tell you, I chatted with her for about 10 minutes yesterday at an event. And regardless of how I may feel over the lack of resources for the constituents that we already work with, she put my mind in a perspective of I don't know the gentleman's name who just spoke, but
Loving God. Let's call him loving God.
loving God, yes. And so, it's not a fair situation for anyone. So love out to everyone.
So
Definitely.
when you say, just from what you may know, when you say about the federal government giving us more money, what would that money do?
It would give us the resources to be able to, situate them. But then that would also bring us resources, leave our resources that are already here alone
Oh,
for the work
right.
that we have already been doing.
Right.
Because right now we're borrowing our own resources, which
Yeah.
is we're already on thin ice.
Yes. Absolutely. Let me ask you a question. Shifting gears. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. Sponsors Daily Arts of Survival magazine, Soft Illusion Art Gallery, and so many others. What do you think of George Santos? Dude is off the chain. Uh,
I
educated, not. Mother died in 9/11, not. Uh, I think he's gay. It doesn't make a difference to me. But I think people are coming out talking. He was somewhere trans, dressing up like a transgender and all
Yes, I
kinds.
saw the photo.
Yeah, yeah. And dude was like, "I'm not resigning." I think he's resigned now, right?
I don't think so.
Oh
If
no,
they
he's still.
make him resign, I think he will.
Yeah. Like, what do you think about? And I'm just going to say this: when politics gets to this point where you see a person blatantly lying and still they don't want to leave, and they have it. What do we have here right now? Loving God said, "Fourthly, if we see the humanity and the have-nots, we will be gaining a maturity that opens doors." I'm not disputing that, but I think there's always a reality to everything. So I think you're talking from a humanitarian standpoint, and I totally agree with you. But we just can't do everything for everything. That's like, and I'll give you a perfect example. In the course of 20 blocks, if I'm walking and I go in and out of stores or whatever I'm doing, and somebody says, "Can you feed me? Can you give me something?" If I feed everybody, what do I have to feed myself? Right? So, okay, I did some good deeds because these people asked, and I was just like, I'm not looking down. Because let me tell you something. And I tell a story, and I'll get back to George one day. I never forget, I was in front of a store, takeout place. Older guy comes up to my car and he says, "Excuse me, I want to get something to eat at, at the store on 126 in Lenox." No, it was Manners. I was going into Manners. So I look, okay, this is an older guy. I'm going to give him something to eat, right? And I give him $5. He walks like he's going to Manners, and he just keeps his little ass. I was so damn mad.
There he is.
Hold on, Al. Hold on. Let me just fix this. I was so damn mad. I went to go get my money. And I said, you know what? Here, loving God, this is the way I'm gonna bring you in on this. I said, I know I gave it to him with good intentions, right? But damn it, I still wanted my $5 back because his intentions wasn't good. Everybody, I got my main man. Happy New Year, Al. Assemblyman Al Taylor in the building. It's February.
Hey,
I haven't seen you.
Happy
What's
New
the
Year,
deal, bro?
Happy New Year. It's been
I
a
love the
trial.
goatee, man. I love it.
Yeah. It's a brand new day, man.
Yeah.
How's everyone? Good evening. I'm glad to be here. Real Talk. It's been a minute. Real Talk right there.
Yeah. We haven't spoken to you. Just to bring you up, I know Wendy told me you're in Albany and you're doing your thing. I just want to ask you some few questions. I know I'm gonna let you take it and run with things that you want to talk about. But since all this thing has happened to New Year's and stuff like that, we just had a situation recently with Mr. Tyrese Nichols. Like he rested in peace. I don't know if you saw the video, but what's your just thought process on what you've heard or what you've seen on the news, or if you saw the video, just tell me anything in regards to your feelings on that.
I could honestly, I could not watch the video. I've seen pieces, almost like, the highlights to a movie. I've seen pieces, but I can't say I watched it. I didn't have the what it takes to watch that. I saw pieces. I heard moaning more than anything else when I first got it.
Right.
It's horrific. It's hard to imagine that any human could treat another human that way. Just forget about who they were. Just the physical assault was brutal.
Absolutely.
It was inhumane, unjustifiable by any standards. It's just it set us back.
Right.
We know that folks are saying all they want to say. It didn't help the narrative about why communities and cop need to work together. In that sense, it doesn't totally cripple it, but it does leave a sour taste for those that would look to capitalize on that. But even if they didn't want to capitalize, it was horrific, man. I can't imagine. I know the mother said she didn't watch it. I wouldn't prescribe for anybody to watch it. It's just crazy. It's heart-wrenching, hurting to see that. That's my take on it. To even hear his moaning and like Floyd, calling for his mother, and there was no mercy. If I did that to my dog, I would get locked up.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's
well,
just.
Let me just tell you this, and I'm not going to poke the bear, but I've done interviews on shows since the situation has happened, this tragic situation has happened, and also we always look at these channels and these stations and have the experts, this one, that chief, and retired that one. Let me tell you something. They were all black, right? I have not heard one chief come out and talk about, let's wait to see the evidence. They was like, yep, that was a savage beating. It was like, oh, this is crazy. I've never seen anything like this before. So understand, just because you're blue, you're still black, because they threw them on as they should supposed to be thrown under the bus.
Absolutely.
But we've seen other situations not as severe and tragic as this, but we've seen situations cause death, and people have still tried to justify that. I'm just poking the bear a little bit. I'm not slapping the bear because I don't want to feel I don't feel like running, but but I'm going to touch this bear a little bit. These officers did a heinous thing, and they need to be thrown under the bus, in the jail, under the jail, and everything. But people understand. You have not seen any expert analyst on any show come out and say, well, let's wait to see the whole evidence. There's no such thing as that, because everybody believes that. What do you want to talk about, Al? Because I have some questions for you. But what do you want to talk about, brother? How's the city council going?
Well, I can't really have that discussion in this space, but all is I'm on target. Yeah, all I can say is I am a candidate and I'm on target. I just want to, just before we move on, I think what I've heard from a few folks that, well, they're Black and they were rushed through the process. I would say the process worked. And unfortunately, more times than not, we're waiting for experts and we're waiting for people to weigh in. We got unions and everybody that can afford lawyers and do all these kind of things, and they position themselves to weather the storm, knowing full well sometimes that on a bad day, let's look at Baltimore. The man
Yeah.
went into the van healthy and came out dead. I mean, time after time, there are places and things that we could look at and see where it didn't go accordingly, and we danced the two-step for 5 years before it goes. I mean, look at Mike Garner. Um, it's
Yeah.
great. For all that it
You
is.
mean Eric Gardner?
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
Oh,
Mike
forgive.
Gardner is our friend.
Like my God, but they're cousins.
I know. That's why I'm saying they're our friends. Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah,
Mike. I love you, Mike. My apologies.
yeah.
So at the end of the day, hold on.
Go ahead, please. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster. We have the Chief of Staff Wendy in the building. We have Assemblyman Al Taylor in the building. He's doing his thing. Multitasking like always. You back, brother?
We were just joined by my colleague and newest arrival into this legislative body, none other than Monique Waterman, and she's from Brooklyn. Why don't I pause for a second and introduce you to my co-host on Real Talk Chronicles, and my chief of staff, Wendy Olivo. Everyone right there.
How you doing?
How are
Working hard.
you? It's nice to meet you.
To meet you too. So it's my first time, so I'm gonna listen and take some notes.
No, that don't work.
It's Real Talk. It's not real listen.
There was no memo. It was like, hey, listen, I gotta be up in an hour. I need you up on here. And I hit all my colleagues that way. So the first rule of Real Talk is there is no script.
Okay.
It's just straight up. And we take questions from the audience. I've been out of pockets probably since October or November at most. And we just come here and have this conversation about life and what's relevant. But what I did wanted to do, if I had some of my other colleagues, but since I only have Monique right now, was have her introduce herself to you guys, let you know where she's from and how long she's been here, how many months she's been here in this legislative body. And we all just kind of pulled ourselves away from the beginning of the budget process called the Yellow Book. And it outlines the $227 billion that the governor is proposing to move our state forward. So here it is. Monique, tell me about yourself, where you're from, and why are you in this, and why you and not somebody else?
Okay, so I'm Assemblywoman Monique Chandler Waterman, representing Brooklyn as the first Black Caribbean woman to represent District 58. That's East Flatbush, that's Canarsie, Crown Heights, and Brownsville. So I've been advocating over 20 years in that district, born and raised in the heart of East Flatbush, raised my 4 children, married over 21 years, educator, healthcare provider, advocate to fight to reduce gun violence, and just wraparound services. Started a nonprofit organization in that community as well, and used to have a 24-hour daycare. So I went back to the same schools I graduated from, my public school, and not only did I go there, my mom went there, my 4 children went to the same school. Then I went back and taught there. And then I was able to secure 110 free slots for after school programs that still exist today. So I'm from the community, of the community, raised by the community, grassroots all the way. And I've been here for 7 months? I've been here from May 31st. I would say my official day. I won the election May 28th. I had 3 elections, and I am here, no money for my campaign, but I was here when the Hearts of the People grassroots campaign, and I am here today because of my good people in the district, but also for people like Al, my colleague right here, supporting.
So for people,
welcome to Real Talk. I appreciate you and everything that you're doing, and Al will always tell you, we'll extend the olive branch. You're always welcome to come back. Anything in your district that you want to come back. Al's here the first Monday of every month. So you can come back on his show, or you can come back and ask Al if there's something that you need to tell us. Al will tell us, and we'll squeeze you in on a Wednesday or something. But you're always welcome to come back.
Thank you.
So let me ask you a question. You're a ground roots person. You're homegrown. What made you get involved?
Well, when I had my first daughter, that was 21 years, I didn't like anything I seen. I was like, I don't like the daycare. I don't like this. The street looks dirty. So when you have
Right.
kids, it's different. At least that was for me. So I said, instead of complaining about it, be part of the solution. So I started with a 24-hour daycare. I worked 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. My husband and I work Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. Then my husband worked like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, So
Right.
we had to find services that can meet the needs for people like ourselves. So that's why we started a 24-hour daycare. And then it led to a nonprofit. And then we just kept on going from there.
Awesome. I appreciate you.
Thank you.
Um, how do you feel politics is going for you? Well, Al doesn't like the word politics too much, but you are the voice and ears for your people in your district. And what do you think you can change and can't change right now in your 7 months? Or what are you going to try to change?
Well, the beauty of the people voting for
Yes,
you, not about
absolutely.
money, right? Is that the
Yes.
people? So I serve the community directly. I'm not bought and I'm not sold. The voice.
Yes.
So being that I was very active on the streets, like, okay, what do I do when it comes to gun violence, public safety, mental health? So I created a task force. So I have like about 5 to 6 task force. So public health breaks down to mental health for me, public safety, small business and nonprofit, faith leaders, right? Education, quality of life. And the community members that supported me from campaign from before, those volunteers are on those task force. So they help lead the priorities in my district. They help with the legislation. So it's called prevention, intervention, restoration, legislation. So they're
Awesome.
really of it. So the change already happened because we build the civic muscle within our district. So it's just basic. We have to get our people organized. They have to be in the know. So as I learn, I'm teaching them at the same time. So they know what's going on because they don't know how to be part of it or have their vital voice heard. So I have monthly vital voice meetings, I call it. Is a civic minded meeting where I teach them what I do as I'm learning it and then how they can be part of the solution. So I have a healthy, robust volunteers that they are the community members are helping make the change. It's not just one elected is going to change everything. You have to hold me accountable, but you have to know how to hold an elected official accountable as well. So I'm proud to say that my constituents has been up here 4 times in January, so every single week with legislation that we talked about within the district, and now they come. These people never came to Albany, didn't know nothing about this at all. I'm proud to say that they're here making sure their voices are heard. And not everybody can come up, but at least one person come and represent for the group. So I've had someone up here every week to advocate. So the change started because it came from within and making sure people know they always had that voice. They just needed a mic. And they said that they have me here. So I'm the mic to amplify those voices.
Well, I applaud you. And just like, it's so funny, this was typed in. Loving God said, he said, God bless the ladies of good works here. So, kudos to you, ladies.
Thank
Let
you.
me ask you a question. And Al, you can answer this too. I think they're trying to set up something where people in the communities, the precincts, can pick their CEOs or interview them and have a process. What's your thought process on that?
I think it's a good idea. Unfortunately, I wasn't a part of that process for my.
Mm-hmm.
We need to know who we're picking, what's their background, their resume, the whole process. So I have a very good relationship with inspectors within my precinct because I make that be known. Because I'm very loud when something is wrong. I'm very loud when something is right. So I am the gonna call you out type of person. So we have, a good working relationship. We don't always agree, but I need
Of
somebody
course.
that's able to understand that I'm not here. It's not about me liking you. You're here to do a job and you need to do it correctly. And I am going to tell you when it's right or wrong. And
Absolutely.
I'm lucky to have the second Black inspector, first one promoted as an inspector in our district that is from a Caribbean background because there's 90% Caribbean immigrants in our district. So he's culturally relevant. That's not always the case, but you need to make sure that that inspector is reflective of that community so they understand that we speak with our hands. Right when I talk to you, and that is not we have Juve. We walking up on the parkway. We dance. So we were able to play a video for officers before Labor Day when we are outside with Juve, and they had to understand our culture when they sent in all the officers from the district and our inspector, and all of them had to make sure that every single officer did that. And the people from the community on my task force who justice involved with every roll call so they could see their face with t-shirts that they're going to be out on the streets keeping it safe. So we have to be very intentional about having community members at the table. So that's a great way. I wasn't part of that process for my precinct. So I'm looking forward to being part of that process in the future and making sure my task force members are part of that.
Before you come in and chime in, I just want to say something. I think that's an excellent idea. I don't know if you know anything about my background besides just being a Harlem dude, Black African American. I was prior law enforcement, but I wasn't the job. The job kind of interfered with my personal life. I always say that. People always laugh at that. So I always kept it Harlem. I was the epitome of what community policing was. I'm from Harlem. I went in the Jason precinct, and people saw me all the time because it was a great thing, and I loved it. I say that to say, understanding what a juve is and itself. But what happens when that officer gets promoted? I mean, that CEO gets promoted, and another CEO comes in, because a lot of times we want people to look like our communities because we think they should understand, and hopefully they understand. But we may not be gifted, because then moving up the rank and file, there might not be enough people of color in that position.
Yes.
It's nothing wrong with having a white person in there, as long as he just has to learn the position, right? Exactly. We just gotta adapt to the community.
We had a white chief that made sure, Chief Kemper made sure that rollout with the Juve video happened in precinct. So, and it's culturally relevant, but also listening to the community. So you're right, because after like 2 years, they can promote and leave. So we're about to have that with our inspector, but having based organizations attached to that model. So whether we have to make sure legislation or something is built, that they have to be with precincts, and we having a conversation, not just the precinct council meetings, but then the interrupters, the community-based organizations, anti-violence groups, and kind of built into the model of speaking with the executives and the inspectors, but the community affairs officers kind of can hold to that. And then I know that the COs depend heavily on the community affairs officer to show them the ropes when they come in. So making sure that probably that is the consistency, along with the community-based organization informing that. Because when you come in the job, you don't know the roles, but having that, it starts from the top up, the chief of that, making sure that they're on the same page. So it has to be a policy thing, a systematic approach.
Yes, everybody, Real Talk Chronicles, if you're watching it, subscribe to it on YouTube so you can get all the notifications. This is Real Talk with Assemblyman Al Taylor, and we have a wonderful guest right here. Oh, Miss Brooklyn in the house. She's holding it down for you, everybody. And we got Wendy, of course. And tell them your name again.
Monique Chandler Waterman.
And what district?
District 58, East Flatbush, Canarsie, Brownsville, and Crown Heights.
Monique is holding it down. You have some applause. Vanessa, she says, I can relate to her story regarding my life on implementing grassroots programs. She also says collaboration is a powerful partnership and concept when it comes to changing. Kudos to you. I see you, Dana. What's up, niece? So, what's funny? Women of color, you're the most educated women out here. You're doing your thing. I applaud you. You're a wife, you're a mother, and then you holding this job. And I know it keeps you busy. So, and you still smile. So that's a good thing. Al, let me ask you a question. The same question I asked Monique. What's your thoughts in interviewing CEOs of the precincts that you're in?
I think, to piggyback on what Monique said, it's really in what one of your listeners just said. It's collaboration, and more so than the community and the stakeholders that are at the table, whether they're precinct council members or just people in the community that are coming to the precinct meetings, and not having a capacity, an official capacity other than just a member of the community. I think it's important that they get a chance to vet that officer, and whatever they think they heard in interacting with that individual, whether he be white, purple, green, whatever their sexual orientation. What's important is that they hear the voice of the people, and the people hear them. So someone may say something kind of cross-eyed, and it's not offensive to them, but it's out of pocket to the community. So I think that's a great look. It's
Yes.
new. I think they rolled it out about 2 years ago. So it's happening, but it gives you, I think it's twofold. One, it gives the community a voice at the table. It says that you are relevant and your concerns about who's serving you is equally as important to us as it is to you. And what I like about it, you have 2 or 3 officers going for the same job. You know, it's kind of like, hey, like I saw one guy somewhere. I said, hey man, congratulations. He said, I didn't get the job. I said, oh, my bad. But I'm
Sorry.
glad I didn't.
Like, my bad.
You feel me? Because I thought he would have been the one that got the job. And I was basing it solely on his skill sets and his ethnicity.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, wow. So it doesn't really, and we saw what happened in Memphis. It's not about your color.
No.
It's about your integrity in the job and what you come and what you bring to it and willing to learn. And I remember an officer at one of the precincts, which I are now in my jurisdiction. When I met the individual, the day I met him, it was in a stop and frisk. And the guy was, I'm cleaner than the Board of Health. And it's 3:00 in the afternoon, going to pick up my master's that day. An old boy and his team stopped me in the middle of the street, a block from my house, and frisked me. And the following day, I was in his office, but it was already scheduled that the former assembly member who I replaced, Herman Denny Farrell, had him on the schedule to meet with the incoming commander. So I walked in the room with him, and it was like, dude, you had to roll his jaw back up, right? And I didn't want him to apologize. It's one of those moments where I had to stop and think about it and say, okay, what do I want to do? Come here. Let me introduce you all. Come on over here, my brother.
Yes.
So right now, everybody, this is the youngest Black man ever to be elected into the New York State Assembly from Rockaway, Khalil Anderson. Yo, we got him up in here.
What's up, Khalil? How are you, brother?
It's fire.
Peace.
This is Brother Bill Foster, my co-host, and everybody out there. If you just popped up in here, this is Assembly Member Al Taylor, and this is Real Talk Chronicles, and you ain't missed the station in the right place. We'll bring that young fella back next time around. Yeah. And we also have my Chief of Staff, Wendy Olivo. Come say hi. Yeah, and so we share stuff around here. So he was returning. These young people remember where to get it from. I'm telling you. Yo, he's fire. And they're coming up from having spent probably like 16 hours today. And again, as I said, we just got our yellow books. Anybody have a yellow book?
You know what's so funny? Is Monique still there too? Or she left?
Yes, you ready? Come on back here, Monique.
I want to ask both of them a question. Khalil, I know I'm gonna throw you into the fire, but I want to ask you a question in regards to the migrants. This is our city. First, you can tell us later about where you're from and what you're representing in your district, and you're always welcome back. Al knows that. But about the mayor was just recently at the place where the migrants are being, I guess, what's the proper word? Should I say, staying? Staying, yes, housed. And it's obviously they're having a problem with where they are. Some people I've spoken to feel like they're asking for too much. Like I'm going to ask you your personal opinion and feelings in regard to that. The mayor's trying to show that it is a living quarters. It's not of bad conditions. I just want to know what the 3 of your positions on that on the migrant situation in New York City.
Yeah, so just to start from the beginning, just so people are clear, thank you, Brother Foster, for that question. We have a consent decree that we have to follow. That means that if there's any individual who is experiencing a period of unhoused or homelessness, are to be provided shelter. Right. And we have struggled as a city and as a state and as a nation, quite frankly, Skid Row, you name it, to house people. We just don't know how to do it. We've struggled with it. And so when I think about this crisis that we're faced with right now, people are asking for adequate accommodations in regards to what is stated in the consent decree. And so I don't think those folk are asking for too much, because this is the same thing our brothers and sisters have been asking for who are in the shelter system. They want safe spaces to live in, free of vermin, free of food without mold, and to be in a safe space. And the same things that our folks have been experiencing who are in the shelter system and going through the shelter system, brother, are the same things that the migrants are experiencing, and they're just demanding better, just like everyone else. We have to follow the consent decree. They're not being prissy. They're not being fancy. They're just asking for basic human rights, and we have a duty and a responsibility to do that. A duty that comes from the judiciary, you know.
So I respect your answer wholeheartedly, and you articulate it so well. So what do you say to one of your constituents that says, "Hey, wait a minute, I'm a citizen. How do we become equal?"
Yeah. How do we what?
How do we become equal? Like I'm a citizen. I've been here. I'm born here. They're migrants. Like I'm supposed to be equal to them, because we live in a world of me, not you. You know what I'm saying?
So we gotta move from a me to you to a we, right? And how to break. Well, I guess I got you. I guess that was.
That's real talk. That's real talk.
Because look, I mean, I've heard this question before from constituents and even folk who I'm close with, that they're concerned that folks are jumping ahead of them. Who native New Yorkers who are born and raised here can't afford housing anymore, now have fallen on tough times, versus folks who are just coming in. Right. And I feel their pain. I hear them. I'm not going to dismiss that feeling. But the facts are the facts, right? We have to operate in two spaces where we can have feelings and we can have facts. Yes. But we can't say that our feelings are our facts. And what the facts of the matter are is that there is equality as it relates to shelter because of the consent decree, or at least they're supposed to. And so the things that they're fighting for are the things that should have been happening already from get.
So let me ask you a question, and then Monique, you can chime in too. And Al, of course, definitely, this is your show, Al, so you can always chime in. Do you think the shelter or wherever the living housing where they are is not of equal status? Because they were in a hotel, and then now all of a sudden they don't want to leave the hotel. I get it. You got a TV in every room. I don't want to leave it either. But listen, the thing is,
I've got 13 hotel shelters in my district. 13 plus. Those are the ones I know about. If they're DV shelters, I'm not to know about them. Right? Especially if they're women DV shelters and so on and so forth. Of
course.
So the concept of using hotels as shelters is not a new concept. In fact, the Speaker of the City Council has among the highest concentration of hotel shelters in any other council district in the city, in Southeast Queens, in District 28. I overlap with her. And a lot of my shelters are in the space where we both overlap, in South Ozone Park, Springfield Gardens area. So the concept of shelters as hotels is not a new concept. In fact, we've even advanced turning those, we on the state level in the state's budget last year, advanced turning those shelters into permanent housing through, I forget the name of H, something with an H. Yeah, something with an H. But in any case, nonetheless, people want access to adequate shelter. And by law, not law, consent decree, we're required to do that. Now, are there hiccups in the system where it might look like someone's getting more than the other? I'm sure there are hiccups somewhere.
Can you do me a favor? Can you just tell people what consent decree means? I know what it is, but maybe the listeners don't.
Yeah.
Can you just break it down for them?
Is something that the judiciary states to a locality, a government, a municipality, an order that they have to follow, right? So it's a set of directives or order that jurisdiction has to follow, whether it's a county, town, village, you name it, city, state. And that happened in the 1970s, I believe.
Right. I have a question coming in first.
Could be wrong about the 1970s.
Kudos. Loving God says kudos to the young gentleman. My man Terrence Lane, what's up, brother? He says, if I'm hearing you correctly, he is saying that the asylum seekers and migrants have rights that are equal to citizenship. If so, what is the value of citizenship?
Shelter, shelter, shelter. We're talking about shelter.
Okay.
Shelter is a basic human right. Shelter.
Yeah.
We're talking about shelter. We're not talking about buying a house. We ain't talking about buying a car. We ain't talking about voting. We're not talking about the privileges of a citizen. We're talking about shelter. We're talking about people who are human beings that have eyes, ears, noses, and mouths, breathing the same air as we do, having access to a roof over their heads. Shelter.
I think you answered this question, but I'm just going to read it in case you might have to reiterate it. He says, and do they have the same obligation to this country and city as citizens?
We have undocumented folks and folks who are not full citizens yet paying taxes now that are not able to access public benefits. So, I mean, that's the misconception a lot of people have. Just because of your status, immigration-wise, does not mean that you're not paying into the system. In fact, in some cases, these folks are paying more into the system than they're able to receive. Because remember, the programs that we have, a majority of the social services programs are not for those who are undocumented, because they're programs that we receive from the federal government, and we administer them as a state and as a city. So therefore, we have to follow federal guidelines. Listen, the feelings, it feels good. It sounds good for some folks to peddle the concept that folk are getting more than the others. But what's actually happening on the ground, the facts don't align with people's feelings.
Yes. And when you talk about that, I'm just thinking about the dreamers. When you look at the dreamers who are not citizens, they work. They lived here. They work. They're educated, but they don't have the benefits of. And I think when we start to look at, well, that person looks like they have a bigger piece of chicken than I do. I don't mean to be facetious. Then
No, I know
we're so busy watching that narrative, but we don't have the whole picture. And I remember the money for the undocumented workers. I think it was something like $79 billion. It could have been 79 million.
1.2 billion.
1.2 billion.
Yeah.
1.2 billion for the whole state of New York. You know, the gig workers that we have, the people that were out there delivering your food when you hid behind your door because you were afraid to go out. It birthed a whole new way. That's the only way they were able to get money until we gave them 1.2 billion. And you said, well, that's a lot of money to give to people that are not citizens. But we gave away probably 10 times or more of that money in benefits here in the state of New York, between federal, city, and state, to every person that worked or had the capacity to have worked or was eligible. So, and at the end of the day, my moderate Democrats that was sitting in these conservative kind of communities understood it was the right thing to do, Bill. But this is what they said. Well, we believe they should get something. Now, after they've gotten billions of dollars across the state, they said, but in order for us to give that 1.2 billion, you got to throw a little something else on the side. So when I go back and talk to my people, I don't want to like get punked. Right. But that's the ignorance. Is that the right word? The ignorancy? That's a
ignorance and arrogance.
Yeah, arrogance. I think that's the word, arrogance. That them there folks think about it. Say, see, they getting this. They fed this freaking state. They couldn't get anything, and they still can't get anything. And they're a bunch that are paying taxes. When we passed the Dream Act, was it the Dreamers Act that we did in the Assembly?
17, I think it was.
Right, 2018.
18, yeah.
The amount of money that they contribute to this state is crazy in terms of what they get back. It's almost like New York spends a lot of money on the federal, and we pay tax dollars on the federal. We're furnishing half these other countries around, other states, but we don't get back what we invest. They don't get back what they invest here. I'm making an argument that we have to take care of everyone. I'm going to do it on a different hat. And there's a text, and it says, when I was hungry, you fed me. When I was naked, you
Matthew
clothed
25.
me. And when I was incarcerated, you came to visit me.
Yes.
Those that are the least of us, it's our job. And you say, well, I don't have anything to give. Yes, we do. If it's nothing but a smile and a handshake, if it's nothing but a worn shirt that's clean, it's more than that other person had. And we are blessed to be a blessing. And we get into this mentality, some of us, that, well, I'm trying to get by with my own.
Right,
And they're not really doing anything with what they have in the first place. They're not investing. Okay, let me not go down that pipe.
No,
But
you go down and grab the hold you want to, brother. Listen, we got a question, and I want to ask Monique to piggyback off of what Khalif was saying. But don't hold on before you go. There was a question for him.
Okay,
the question.
Let me let Monique go first, and then I'll go.
Okay, cool. What was the
Yeah, I need some work
in the refrigerator.
So Monique, we were talking about. You heard the first question. We were talking about the migrants, and what was your thought process on that aspect?
Basic human rights, the shelter, support. I know one of my principals told me she had like 53 students that came to school. They were not able to translate or get, those kids are innocent and they just need support, and the families do as well. So for anyone, you want to make sure, if that's your brother, sister, put yourself in their shoes. They just need support. A lot of people were promised a lot of different things and told to come here for better life, and they were bamboozled too. So it's just like a lot happening there. And basically, like my colleagues are saying, it's just basic human rights. They need the shelter, they needed support. And we got the whole systematic issue that we have a lot of different things that's going to take a while to dismantle, but we can't leave them checked and unsupported in that time.
That's one thing you all can see. This is Real Talk Chronicles. They throw the tough questions at you. They don't play. The question is for all of you. What bills are you working on to remove regulations for small businesses, entrepreneurs, and poor districts? I'll read it again. What bills are you working on to remove regulations for small business, entrepreneurs, and poor districts? And everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. If they don't have the answer, they'll say they don't have the answer. Listen, the one thing about it is transparency.
Want me to start?
Yeah.
So what I would say is, like, I have the small business nonprofit task force. So what I learned, I just newly got in, was that the small business, there was a lot of funds. Like we have Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, we have different spaces where they could get funds. A lot of the small business didn't even know about that. So a lot of them closed down during the pandemic. They couldn't even process those loans. They didn't know how to get it. So I said, fundamentally, we need to organize our merchants. So I'm organizing a merchant association, and also making sure that the Brooklyn Chamber of Commerce, and those who could provide support, small business services, those to those effect, is working with those mom and pop, those small businesses that's not able. You can't be doing services and then also trying to figure out these workshops and where to go. They don't know how to access funds. Right. So basically, just making sure that they have that support, and making sure that we create intentional pathways for that. So even if it's simple of organizing a merchant association, making sure that in the state we have even a office of nonprofit that's holding people's hands and walking them through process. Because when we say small business and nonprofits, they have challenges on both ends, right? And there are communities. So just making sure that they know what funds and what resources are accessible to them. Because when I talk about gun violence, right, we're talking about a lot of issues with mental health. Those stores are permanent fixtures where people go for safe havens. They go to those stores, and those men in the community, those store owners, they become family members for those coming every day. Hi, Bob, how are you today? Oh, you're looking a little, something's going on. So we put the 988 number for mental health crisis. They become the ones whose father in our community, a mother in our community, and making sure they do check-ins and giving them food when they need it, when they don't have money and things like that. So we have to just make sure that we put those resources and support, because the young men on the streets, when we talk about gang violence, they're talking about Mr. So-and-so at the barbershop who's keeping them in line and helping them with their homework and supporting them on the streets. So everything goes hand in hand, and it's a full circle. So organized block association, organized community members, organized and merchant association. Those are ways that you help reduce when it comes to gun violence. And I'm put up one last point. Shahid Faisal was murdered by police in our district on Utica, a very commercial corridor. All the store owners knew him, but they was like, that's Shahid, he's not feeling well today. And it took someone outside that didn't know him. They called the police on him, but all the community members had that resource, or they knew what to do. So we went to train those store owners on the 988 number, making sure, because they are part of the community, to make sure they're stakeholders, to make sure the community is well and taken care of. That, so we talk about small businesses. I don't think people look at them as the social workers. They become the family members. They become everything to our community. So it's just more than just them selling chips, right? Or what they're doing. I think the young man that got murdered in the store, right? They come into, that's your safe haven. And we have to look at it in that context of how they really contribute to the community beyond just selling the product that they're selling.
You know, I co-sign everything you said, because the store owner at the corner of my block, he knows when I haven't been around. He knows my business better than me sometimes. They be like, Billy, I ain't seen you in a while. Blah, blah, blah. I'm like, oh, okay, I was there. I didn't feel good. Anything. I just tell them anything. But they know your schedule. People in your community know your schedule, and they know what they will look out for you and not. I think this is a compliment to all of you. Vanessa said, she said he is on point. We are extensions and helpers, as he just mentioned, on helping folks get the services and move forward. Jesus left a blueprint. I commend you all. You see, this is real talk. They ask the tough questions. They don't play with you. They love it. Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
Let me add on to what Monique said too, because Monique is talking about something critical: information dissemination. A lot of people don't know about what exists already, and her forming that task force helps that happen. But let me talk about 2 ways I'm working on the small business angle. I couldn't think of it right away, but then I went deeper into my hard drive, and I want to talk about my mind. It's a hard drive.
That's what he calls it.
Yeah, I want to talk about 2 things. So I'm the chair of the subcommittee on banks and underserved communities. If you want to start a business, if you're an entrepreneur, if you're someone that just has an idea, there's no money for you. Why is there no money for you? Because the racist banking institutions that exist and live in our communities, Wells Fargo, Chase Bank, TD Bank, these institutions don't lend to our people. So that $10,000 I need to start up my sneaker business, that $10,000 I might want to invest to buy a chair at a shop, a hair salon, or whatever the case may be, does not exist. And so what we're trying to do is force the state to do more in that area. There's a program that was established in the 1990s to incentivize financial institutions to come into communities that otherwise are banking deserts. That's called the Banking Development District Program, run by the Department of Financial Services. And it provides financial incentives for financial institutions to open up in communities across the state. That means that they will give you a certain amount of state depositories into that institution for it to open.
Okay.
Typically, CDFIs, community development financial institutions, and credit unions lend more to Black and brown folks.
Understood.
For home loans, whether it's for starting a business. I'm working to try to figure out how to get BDDs to roll out and expand and create CDFIs, right? And credit unions in communities that otherwise do not have access to lending resources. That's how you're going to create more small businesses and sustain the ones that exist. That's step 1. But step 2, when we have businesses in our community, even when it's us, we got to hold them accountable.
Absolutely.
And so I'm working on legislation right now, and this is something we all have faced. We've walked into a grocery store where there is not so desirable produce or expired foods, expired meats.
Yeah.
We're trying to look at consumer protection law as well as agricultural law to ensure that not only is there a process to complain, but there's also a process for finding these institutions, grocery stores alike, that continue to sell poisonous things in our community. So it's a really tricky. I've been working on this bill for since I've got here. It's tricky to do it because there are there's a different definition between what's a grocery store versus what's a supermarket. Legal definitions.
What is that? What is the legal definition? If you know, only if you know off the top of your head.
Don't the line, but I think it's based on a certain amount of square footage.
Square foot. That's what I'm about to think.
Yep, and of employees, something like that, and that's agriculture law or consumer protection law or business law. One of
Absolutely.
And
I'm sorry. Go ahead, please continue.
Go ahead, brother. What's that?
No, I apologize for interrupting you. Please continue.
We're trying to figure out how to legislate it because also, and y'all will get a kick out of this, delis and bodegas, there's no legal definition for them. They don't exist. They're not a grocery store or a supermarket.
Yep.
So
really?
those are the entities I'm looking to regulate in addition to our larger supermarkets. And so that's why we've been having a tough time getting the bill off the ground. But that's
So
a
what
bill.
umbrella would they fall under?
It's interesting. They're small businesses. I think
The
there's
small businesses,
Store.
but not deli or supermarket right there. I got
Right.
you. Got
It's
you.
an interesting thing. So you might see Mario's Deli at the corner, and sometimes they'll say deli and grocery, but legally it's not a grocery store. It's not. So we're trying to figure that piece out so that we can have more accountability over these institutions that sell expired food in our communities. Everybody experienced it. Yeah. Everybody's picked up sausage that's a week plus expired, fruit that has a hole in it, some worm went through it, some type of thing. And we got to hold these businesses accountable to our communities.
And I want to piggyback right there.
Yeah.
For the people that are listening, the best way to do it is immediately stop spending your money there. See, because they want us to do miracles. So if I'm standing outside, and I can't tell you how many countless times I've been in a room, a supermarket, a legitimate supermarket, gone in, looked at the produce, the cans, the fruit, and the meat. The meat is the worst. The meat, they triple wrap it. They throw some red stuff up there, and it look like you're getting something fresh. But if you peel back, they're too lazy to have taken off the expired label on it. And they've shifted stores, and when you go in and you start pulling up, and I've done this because people saying, hey, this stuff is bad. And I go in there and I say, you damn right it's bad. So you write a report, you get them go to consumer affairs, they get a complaint, but the people won't stop going in there. Right. Instead of going 5 more blocks, they want to stay right there. It ain't gonna make no difference. Yeah. So we're fighting for them, and they're holding us hopefully accountable, but they don't want to get engaged in the process to help take care of themselves. Because the minute you stop someone from taking home $1, they can hear you. The minute they stop, I'm just gonna go hog here. When they're disrespecting our young girls and telling you get the F out the store and calling you outside of your name because they think that they can say you what you say to your friends, man, a joke is a joke until you get your jaw broke. And at the end of the day, it's a whole disrespect. And we all right with that. When I say we as a community, oh, this is so-and-so. Why? Because they give you a free cigarette, because they look the other way. We got to hold these cats accountable all through the day. I've got folks over at a place and they say, well, I don't like how this person talks to me. And I said, well, what do you want me to do? I said, just get 5 people. And I went in, but I talked to the guy. I said, this lady said you said such and such about her. And if you said that, you out of pocket and it's disrespectful. He said, that's not what I said. That I don't know who was or wasn't. And I said to the lady, because I hear a complaint here and there, why do y'all keep going in there? On a beautiful day, just put your table in front and start writing with a sign, and I'll help you. But I can't fight the fight. I can't fight every fight. Sign a petition. We're not going in there because it just looks like Al Taylor. And the minute I get them to do something to people, I don't know why they closed the supermarket down, bro. It's like the people in Egypt. You know, why did you bring us out here to die? We were living off the hog back there. Now we don't know where we're going. We don't have nothing. You should have left us where we were at, Moses.
I know. Damn you, Moses, right? That's what we're talking about. Right.
It's kind of crazy, but I am so proud of these colleagues of mine that are here.
We're grateful to have you, brother.
Yeah, man. Bless you.
Listen, I want to ask them. There's some questions that I was saying. Where can people of color get a high return in investment, and where is the reparations task force for New York State? And then I have one question after that. Go ahead.
Okay, so on the we have a hard time. Reparation. There's a lot going on right now within the body. There's a lot that's happening. I would say stay tuned. It's not as simple as people that look like all of us together here. It's where you here, where were you most harmed? There's a lot of conversation that's going on just to even roll this thing out. So to that question, please stay tuned, and hopefully we'll have something for you by the time we get to end of the session, because people are coming from it from different perspectives. These people groups should be in, or these people groups should be out. But if we don't do it like some other people who have done this well, this is not about take the money and run. This is about how do we create longevity going forward so that we are an institution to be reckoned with. And when you say our name, you put some respect on it.
Absolutely. I got a question. My man T Lane he says, I'm sorry, but I need clarity. We Black people support other people outside our community all the time, only to be disregarded, discriminated against, and exploited by some of the very people our forebears advocated for. Don't believe me? Read up in the Immigration and Nationality Act of 1965, which was part of the civil rights laws that were fought for by Black Americans. We also look out for our brothers and sisters from the Caribbean, English, and Spanish speaking. So if we are going to support them when we need support, they have to be there for us as well. Your thoughts, comments?
Yeah. So it is true. The same year that we did voting rights, we also did, I think, the immigration exclusion pieces, which I think there was a federal legislation that was done to increase and improve the immigration process for folks who are coming from other Black countries, parts of Africa, parts of the Caribbean diaspora. That all came into effect. I think we also did some stuff with other groups, including our Latinx brothers and sisters, because there's immigration happens from almost every nation in the world, but there's a certain amount of folks who are allowed in from each nation, and so that was corrected, at least for the folk in the Caribbean and African diaspora, during that 1965 immigration piece that was done. Now, as it relates to support, right? We and Al does a really good job at this, right? We build coalitions. We try to bring folk to where our universe of thinking is as it relates to around the issue and subject matter. Now, we've passed a reparation bill, I think 2 or 3 times in this house. So I don't think it's a problem of coalition building around reparations, more so that it is the technicalities of the legislation to ensure that it produces what we need it to produce. And that's the true repair of harm, not just of chattel slavery, but the sharecropping piece and also the Jim Crow era, right? So we're trying to look at all forms of enslavement. And even right now, looking, and Al's been on this issue as well, looking at that 13th Amendment that currently in our state's constitution legalizes slavery here in the state of New York through our carceral system. So all of that is what we're trying to cover in the reparations conversation now to make sure we have the best possible legislation. And Monique has been on this issue. Al's been on this issue, and all of our colleagues have been on this issue, trying to figure out how to repair these centuries of harm to our people. So it's about coalition building, and I think our folks do well at that. It just has to be us leading that conversation, making sure that during that coalition building, it's a Black face leading that, and that's what we do well.
Awesome. Loving God says, please ask the highest return on investment again. I don't know what he's trying to invest. I have a question. If you have an answer for that, that's fine. I don't know what he's asking for, the highest return on investment again. I want to ask you, what's your thought process on mental illness in your district? And Khalid, please tell people what district you're in right now. I know you got right into the fire pan, but
Yeah. Y'all shot me right out of a rocket. So I am Khalil M. Anderson. I represent the 31st Assembly District in Southeast Queens. Southeast Queens in the building. Queens get the money.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Man, take it.
And that includes the neighborhoods of South Ozone Park, South Richmond Hill, JFK Airport, which everybody's been to, Rosedale, Springfield Gardens, and my hometown of Far Rockaway.
Oh, Far Rockaway, okay. So let me ask you a question. What's your thought process? I know we don't want to, first and foremost, you're always welcome to come back to Real Talk. All you got to do is tell Al something's happening in your district you want to talk about. Just tell Al and come on back and we can just chop it up. I don't want to keep you too long because I want you to always come back. But what's your thought process? Khalil, I'll ask you after I want to ask it to the dais. But what's your thought process on mental illness? How do you help it in your communities, in your district? How do you make things more?
Same thing.
Yeah.
What's the right word should I say? And how do you deal with that that process, that problem. Because mental illness is a big thing, even when they're faced with crime. A lot of times people mix mental illness and crime. Not that it doesn't go together, but the bottom line is me sometimes feeling that people have used mental illness as a scapegoat. You know, I mean, and I'm telling you I'm talking about a black man and a former law enforcement. I can see a person that throws feces on a woman, but he won't throw it on the guy that's 6'2" and 220. You see what I'm saying? But you throw it on a woman that's 5'2" and she got a bunch of bags. I'm not disputing that it might not be mental illness, but he ain't all that mental ill. He know who to pick the fight with. Everybody always says, you know who to mess with. So but that's just my take on it. But my question to you is, what's your process in helping the mentally ill navigate in your community?
That's a multi-layer issue that need a multifaceted approach. So let's start. So wraparound services. So for one, decriminalize and destigmatize mental health illness, right? And have real resources. So number one, police officers are not mental health providers. They should not be answering those calls, right? We have a new number, hotline number 988 with a mental health provider, but we have to go deeper and making sure that we, because it's always kink when you start out a system, right? Mm-hmm. We need a mental health provider that responds to someone in a mental health crisis to provide the appropriate care. That's number one, basic. And then we need to make sure that they really get a lot of the services needed, because a lot of times, unfortunately, people are not diagnosed, so they self-medicate. So then you get substance use as well. And they have to all work together with the mental health and substance use. So we have to have real resources that help. We need treatment, not jail time for them. We need to make sure they're really getting services. So they have mental health courts now that, because unfortunately, someone, if they have a mental health crisis and you're an adult, right, it's voluntary to get the services, right? But unfortunately, if that person with mental health, that need mental health support, is in part of a crime in some type of way, they're criminalized and then they get mandated. So we can make sure as a family that they get the support they need if you need it voluntary, if you're an adult, because it's voluntary services. But the police can mandate and the system can mandate certain things. So we have to figure out how do we all work together with the loved ones as well, because the family is the main support, and making sure that they are supported through the process as well to make sure they're able to support the loved one. It's a big issue that keeps on going around and around, and then it goes into the homelessness as well. So some people that are homeless, a lot of them have mental health issues as well that wasn't diagnosed. So they are out there, family members can't find them. So this is a lot to like tackle. And,
yes, absolutely.
And just to start off, there is a 988 number. We'll remove the police from response to those with mental health crisis, and just making sure we have real services. It go beyond just having beds. For someone who has mental health crisis, they need services, they need support, they need mental health providers to be able to support that and give them incentives, because this is a business that a lot of people are not really trying to get into because they get paid little to nothing, and there's no incentive. So we have so many different issues.
Yes, we do. I mean, you know, I tip my hat to you all, because there's so many things that comes in front of your desk, and I'm using that word desk for you to tackle and be involved in and try to solve a problem. It's so much, and I'm assuming, or should I say, I know that your hands are tied for a lot of reasons, but you still try and do the best of your ability, and we need grassroots people like yourselves now to still be, you know, from the communities, connected to the communities, and still trying to do for the community with the allotted powers that you have. Al, I know you want to say something. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to, Brother Anderson had to run. There are several events that are scheduled in addition to this. So I certainly thank him for joining us. And
please thank him. Yeah.
Remember Waterman. But just, I was curious, because it's funny, you said, well, you know, we're not going to hold us long. And then we go into this conversation. Yeah. It's kind of like the Baptist preacher that said, I won't be before you long. And then he takes the pocket handkerchief out, you know, and we say, oh, man. But you're excited if you never heard that before. But if you've been to 2 or 3 services and you hear, I'm not going to be before you long, the question is very relevant. It's long an hour, it's long 2 hours, it's long 2.5 hours. And when he finished, is it over or there are other parts of it? Because it goes on and on. And, you know, and then when people finish, they want to spend another hour. Ooh, did we have a get out already? So I don't mean that to say we're rushed. So there, I looked at 4 types of mental health. And it's important for me just to unpack this. Mood disorders. Raise your hand if you ever had one of those.
Mm-hmm.
Then you say, and then there's depression. You've ever been depressed for a minute? You know, we're not talking long term, you know, walking back and forth to George Washington Bridge. We're in a moment. There's a funk. There's something that's not clicking. And sometimes, honestly, we can't even put our finger on it.
Yeah.
And the other one is the bipolar. The other one is anxiety issues. Well, you know, I can't sleep. I get 2 hours of sleep a night. But all of those things are relevant. So when we talk about, and the reason I just wanted to point those things out, because we're talking about something that we're all very familiar with in our own life, if we're honest with ourselves. But most of the time, it's those people, their folks, and we're thinking about solutions for them, but not for ourselves. I think there is, what's his name? Man, from the show that committed suicide.
Which the one with Happy Twitch,
right? No one saw it coming. It was there. I didn't know him that well, but we can mask it so well. And part of why we mask, or I would imagine that is being masked, because it's a stigma. If you open that up and say, well, you know, I suffer with this or that, you know, people kind of step back from the water cooler on your butt, like, yeah, you know what I mean? But we all have the potential to have those things. Even as I'm talking to this space right now, I'm talking about somebody, some of us, or it could be me at that moment. But it's such a stigma that we're like, yo, man, you know, there's things that you just ain't gonna talk about in public, you know, like men don't cry. Men don't cry, you know what I mean? Like, wind in my eye, man, I think I'm in there. We ain't gonna cry, or we're not gonna own that we're crying. And I think it comes to a point where we have to be free to express who we are in a space. And then when we need help, instead of being pushed away, being pulled in and hugged and loved and whatever that is, and walking alongside that person. So it's interesting we're having this conversation, because the governor this was part of our budget talk.
Sorry, that's why I was late.
Right? This was part of a 30-minute, 40-minute conversation, because mental health is more than how I'm feeling, because I compartmentalize that or I open up a door and I start experimenting with a combination of things, whether it's sexual, whether it's drugs, whether it's violence. So now my insides are now being expressed. So you know me or that individual as that. And so you can put them in, give them the treatment that they need. You get the medical coverage. We have a bed for them. But then once they come out, if no one's there to help them navigate through life that put them there, it continues. It's a reset. You're going back there again. So you need someone there to make sure that you're walking with that person. You're making sure that if it's medicine that they need, and you always have to go back to have that conversation. What are the triggers that put people in those spaces? So mental health is everything. And you can say, "Oh, I didn't see that coming," because we are embarrassed to talk about it in society, especially in our culture. You don't talk about that.
Yeah, it definitely kind of tabooish and
yeah, that's the word.
Topic that people don't want to talk to. Excuse me for smiling, but I was just laughing to our other co-host that just came in on Wendy's couch, and her dog. So that's why I shared a smile.
Say hi, Lola. Say hi, Lola.
Anyway, let me just, Stefania, Monique, can you tell Stefania what your district is again? Because she's from Brooklyn, so I just hold on. She might be your constituent.
East Flatbush, Canarsie, a little bit of Brownsville, a little bit of Crown Heights.
Okay, and Loving God said, he said, does anyone have a? No, he says, can you write a bureaucracy inspection bill? Bureaucracy bill.
What?
Bureaucracy.
Bureaucracy inspection bill. Hey,
I,
he's stumping all of us with that one, right?
I think he may want to write that bill. Sure, I got to figure out what the name of God it was. A who? Bureaucracy.
uh, my man Terrence said, we also have to talk about mental health as it pertains to the pandemic, how the social isolation and pandemic experience exacerbated mental emotional issues for many. I think that's definitely a conversation, but is that something political aspect where you guys would be able to talk about to, I guess, find maybe therapeutic places where people can go and converse, or centers for elderly? I don't know. I'm throwing something out in the universe because a lot of times, I don't know, are people putting too much on your plate, or is this something right up your alley where this is something you would be able to deal with?
So when you say deal with, there's two things. I don't deal with it.
We don't do direct.
I'm thinking about references and where can I get it. So when you said what legislation are we thinking about writing, I start thinking about the cases that I've dealt with. I start thinking about the businesses that are there and the services that are already there. A lot of what we're talking about are resources that are there and we haven't tapped into them or are unaware of it. I think if we're going to be honest with ourselves, we should have counselors, qualified counselors in our schools so that our youngest kids are being able to have someone to talk to, because the suicide rate among young Black boys starting at 11 is higher than any other people group in the world. That Black boy 11 is more likely to attempt to commit suicide, and they have the highest rate for making it happen. That's a sad commentary. So we need people in spaces like violence interrupters. We need people interrupting what they're experiencing, and you don't know it. Have you seen the commercials? The commercial says, "Oh, just get over it. Do this." We're speaking ignorance into a situation that we don't know, and we're talking about just snap out of it, go do this or go do that, and they have no idea. If anything, they're pushing that person further away. We have to listen more. It's so important. And to that point, I don't have answers. I don't even try to pretend I have them. I'm just saying, where can we direct? Can we put money in here to make sure that school has those resources? Or in that senior center, somebody's going through something, is there someone that they can talk to? We got to create more places and people available to hear the hearts of the people.
Or get access to mental health providers through your insurance, and making sure those who's providing, especially the Black and brown mental health providers, are getting properly paid for that, and remove the red tape for it. Because a lot of people say, well, they don't relate to me. And you find somebody that's good, but it's $200 an hour, and then their insurance doesn't cover it. So then you find somebody that's not effective because your insurance can cover it, and you don't stick with that therapist because it doesn't gel with you. So it's like we have and then just knowing what resources we do have and making sure that it's accessible to get to the resource. So when I do something called Occupy the Corner in an area that's a hotspot area, where there was gang violence, gun violence, potential quality, whatever quality of life issues, we go out there with the violence interrupters, we go out there with mental health providers, and we go to the streets where people need the services and the support that's necessarily not going, and know where to get the resources from. So like having that ready and available, and being very creative and out of the box thinkers on how we're going to really support our community members. The church, I tell you, I have a faith leaders task force, so I'm teaching this from the pulpit, and I have the pastor. I check in on my pastor, especially the Black and brown pastor. I'm like, what's going on? Are you okay today? Because who's checking on them when they're taking everything in? And we have to just make sure that they have the proper resources as well. Because when people campaign, they go to the church talks to the people, but then that pastor needs the support as well, because people would go to Saturday or Sunday, they're in those houses of worship. So we could have those spaces and utilize those spaces as well. But the resources have to be really intentional, and people can't go to 10 places to get real resources. They need to go to a one-stop shop. That one person help them. It's like everything becomes case planning. Our staff is case planners. Constituent services is like, you need a social work degree to do that because you're case planning. So a lot of this work is very layered, and it's a lot of resources needed and real resources to make sure we take care of our community.
And
Let me read this comment from Loving God. He said bureaucracy definition, and he tells me to read it slow. Well, I'm going to read it as slow as I can, but not slow as I can. A system of government in which most of the important decisions are made by state officials rather than elected representatives.
Decisions are made by who?
State.
By state officials rather than elected representatives.
It's one and the same in this space. So I'm not sure. You know, I don't have a degree that big, but to me, in New York, we are the elected. The governor is elected on the Senate side. So the houses, you have the three folks. So you have the Senate, the Assembly, and the executive branch. So we make those decisions, and it is the elected. So it is exactly what he said it is. It's the electeds that's making that decision. Right. And if you're on the city council space, it's the same thing. Mm-hmm. So you have your councilmatic people that are there making decisions, and even the president of the city council is elected, so they make those decisions. So help me unpack this. I got about 2 more minutes.
He got to help you unpack it because I can't unpack it for you. I got to let him. Yo, sometimes I stay in my lane. Al, I just read the question. Listen, Monique, Al.
We need to remove the barriers from making sure people get resources and get access to care. So there's a lot of red tape when it comes to that. At times, there's a lot of barriers. We need to just make it, simplify it, making sure if they now need to procure funds, they could do that in an easy way to do direct services. If we need somebody to get support and services, they need to get that without all the extra. So we need to just make sure that we remove barriers for people to get the services, the quality of care that they need, and reduce, the quality of life issues. I don't know.
Listen, you said enough. You said enough for me. Now, one thing we always do, Monique, when we leave, we always leave with positive affirmation. So whatever you want to say, whatever, anything positive affirmation you want to give to people. And after that, thank you for being here, Al. Thank you, of course, for always doing what you do, Al, my bro.
But thank you.
Monique, let people know where they can reach you, find you in your district. And what does he say? I'm saying you create a bill to inspect unelected people in the government. We'll have to. I'll take that with y'all when y'all go. Yeah. I don't know what to do with that. Well, I'm saying you create a bill to inspect uninspected people in government. I don't know if you want to touch that. I just want you to give us some positive affirmation, Monique. Tell people where they can watch you, find you. I appreciate everything that you have said you are doing and trying to do. You're always welcome back. Al knows that. I appreciate my guy for always bringing something good to Real Talk Chronicles. That's why he's my co-host and my guy. So, Monique, please say anything that you would like to say.
Well, thank you so much for this experience, and thank y'all for your leadership with this, because conversations like this, real talk, is what people need. Sometimes we're talking above people's head or over them, and we're not talking with them and asking. We're making this sound so complicated, and being elected official so complicated. I'm here to show that I live in your blocks. I live in your community. I'm a mom. I'm a sister. I'm a daughter. I'm just like you, and I could do this. You can do this too. And that's my philosophy of making stuff very simple and very comprehensive for our community members and palatable. So this people know that this is not some foreign thing that you cannot do, right? So I'm representation of that. So at New York State, New York State Assemblywoman Monique Chandler Waterman. My office is 903 Utica Avenue between Church and Snyder, right? Then the heart of Flatbush. Number is 718-385-3336. And I would say for positive affirmation is just love and unity conquers all. You don't have to like someone. This is not about a like thing. At the end of the day, people look at us, especially Black and Brown community, they look at us all the same. We have one mission: to uplift our community and to do better, right? And
Absolutely.
Move forward. And that's it. So love and unity. That's what we have to focus on. If you ever see someone on the street, they were hurt, the human part of you take over. You don't know them, but you say, let me help them. We need to display that in every space, right? And we need to make sure that we're doing that on a consistent basis, loving ourselves, loving our neighbor, and the unified force. Because when we organize, and we come together, the power what we can do. It's not just about electing an official and leaving them. It's about getting that elected official elected, but supporting them. So if there is something that is lacking in support, you're stepping in the gap to support your elected official, because they really represent your voice. It's 130,000 people. Only one person go on the ballot, and you trust that elected official. They're not God. I promise you I won't be perfect, but I promise you I'll do the best I can, but I got to do it with all of you. When you're standing with your elected official and people are trying to squeeze them and put pressure on them from wherever it's coming from, and all of y'all are standing with the elected official, you have the loudest voice even more than that elected official in that space. So we just have to make sure love, unity, and supporting your elected officials and making sure you hold them accountable. But by holding them accountable, it's not just criticizing what you didn't see done, because the 140,000 people is saying, I see this is a need here. I could step in that gap, and let me help and support and make sure that we work together. Organize your block association. Organizing is the best way that we could get this done together. So love, unity, organizing. That's the positive.
Appreciate you, Monique. Appreciate you. Al?
Super. Hey, listen, it's been a ball.
He's
Thank
a
you all
preacher.
so much. It's just amazing. I can't underscore enough that we are just some folks that were so fortunate to be in this space for however long God would allow us to be here, not just on this earth, but in this political arena. But we are the people that come out of the communities that most of us still live in. And however way we can be of service, that's what we try to do. I would say love yourself more than anything else. Love yourself. Know that in the world that you live in, you were created in the Creator's image. Know that you matter. And someone said, well, I don't even know what a father is like because I didn't have a good example of the one here on earth. But we have a father that is our creator, man. And he loves us just for who we are. Our shortcomings, curly hair, no hair, skinny pop belly, whatever it is, he loves us. And I think more times than not, we lose sight of the fact that we are loved. And when you are loved, and I think Monique said something about when you see someone and that person is hurting and you intrinsically feel hurt for them as well and want to do something, it's okay. It's not a sucker move. That's what we were created to do. We are created to love. So love yourself and love your God. And there's something that says we are created to love justice and do mercy. Love justice and do mercy, and walk humbly with our God. That's all it is. All that other stuff,
Absolutely.
it doesn't change a hill of beans, and we're excited. I am grateful to be here. And when we look at our backstories, each one of us here, from Wendy to Bill to Cleo to Monique and myself, Malika, Gwen, we're all getting there by the grace of God. So those
Absolutely.
that are listening, you are us, we are you. Help us to continue to take care of our communities and each other. And I think that will help us to save someone that may be going through something. And remember, there's no shame in being hurt. There's no shame in having some mental illness. We've stigmatized it, but it's time to walk that back.
Absolutely.
Just
Wendy, would you like to add something?
Well, I'm going to keep it very short after these two preachers, but I did see something earlier today that stuck with me.
Sure.
So be the part of transformational change and watch the impact of your work on a daily basis. So be that change, do good work. Assembly members have said, do something, join something, be a part of it, because you can't make a change sitting in your living room talking about it.
This was that she said, Vanessa said beautifully stated. Al, this is probably for you and Wendy. He says, can you please have websites or programs that help poor folks if you can on your next visit?
I'm sorry, help poor folk what?
Resources for people who need them. We'll bring links.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And in the meantime, you can go to our links and see what we're doing as well.
And I
Okay.
shared my email address earlier, Bill, if you want to put that back up. If anybody has any questions, any requests, or if we can assist them with anything, just please email me and we'll get back to you.
Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. As you can see, it's Real Talk. There isn't anything scripted. Thank you to my host, my co-host, and thank you for our guests. Like I said, you're always welcome back. Thank you. You're a real sister. Not pushing the building, baby. You ready for that real talk? You ain't scared.
Thank you.
Thank you.
so
So,
much.
listen, everybody, have a wonderful evening.
I
Subscribe
love to Malika.
It's definitely please so when we say hi. It's February. Wow.
Yeah.
Valentine's. Oh, Super Bowl. Who you going for? Malika's from Philly. Enough said on my part. Go New York. Go. The brunch party every third Saturday of the month. It's phenomenal. It's a movement. Beautiful people. Brunch party. Wednesday I'll be back. We'll maybe touch on some more on Mr. Nichols. What's next for those officers that did that heinous act, and anything else that people want to talk about. You're always welcome to join the show. All you got to do is reach out. This is open forum, baby. Al, tell them we not scared, right?
Yeah, it is. Hey, not for the faint of you can get a new one here.
We ain't scared.
Yes, indeed.
Good night, everybody.
Blessings.
Real talk.
Thank you.
Peace.
You got your office.
Yeah, yes.